Good morning. Today is Monday. Today we're learning the first Perek of Orla with Hashem. Our Siyum is being planned for this Sunday. We're going to do two Parakim on Sunday. If you remember, we missed Erev Sukkot, so we're going to have to make up. We're supposed to finish the Seder this coming Sunday, and the Siyum is going to be on Sunday around noontime, and we're going to do two Parakim on Sunday morning and wrap it up on Sunday and start Moed on Monday, Mirz Hashem. That's the plan. Um, Today's shiur is sponsored by Nishmas Our Nachman Simcha Cohen, Yeshua Mordechai ben Shefsel, Baruch Saba Shmuel Leib, Binyamin Moshe ben Yosef, and Hashem is all having Aliyah. And this week's shiur is being sponsored by the New York State Chaplain Group. Thank you for your sponsorship. Orla, here we go. Perek Aleph. The pasuk says, the pasuk in Vayikra, Perek Chav Gimel, was that Emor maybe? I'm not sure. Talks about Orla, but the first 3 years of the tree you cannot eat them. It's considered Orla from the lashon of Arel, and the fourth year the fruit is Kodesh, and you need to bring it to Hashem, and the fifth year you can eat it going later. Okay, so we're going to talk about this now. Perek Aleph, Mishnah Aleph. Hanoteya l'sayag l'koros. If someone plants a fruit tree to be part of a fence or to use its wood for beams. Okay, so we look at the psukim of Orla. So what the first mission is going to talk about. It says, "V'chisavo al haaretz u'natatem kol eitz machal v'araltem orloso es pirio shalosh shanim yeh lechem bareim lo yachel. V'shana harviyas yeh kol pirio kodesh hilulun Hashem v'shana chamishis tochlu es pirio lahosif lachem tuvaso and yeshem alkeichem." Translated, when you shall come to the land and you shall plant any food tree, you shall treat them as closed as Orla. You shall treat as closed its Orla, its fruit. For 3 years it shall be closed to you, shall not be eaten. And the fourth year all its fruit shall be sanctified to praise Hashem. And the fifth year you may eat its fruit, so that it will increase its crop for you. I am Hashem, your God. So, the first two Mishnayos talk about these psukim. So, what does it mean? So, if someone plants a fruit tree to be part of a fence or to use its wood for beams, patam in Orla, it is exempt from the chiyuv of Orla, and one may eat the fruit of that tree even during the first 3 years. Rabbi Yossi says, "Afilu amar hapenimi lemaycha v'chatzia." The chitzon, the siyag. And if he said when he planted the tree, I will use the part that faces the inside of my property for food, and the part that faces the outside for a fence, hapenimi chay v'chitzon pater. The fruit that grows from the part facing the inside is subject to Orla. But the fruit that grows from the part facing the outside is pater from Orla. Mishnah Beis. I was saying at the time that our forefathers, led by Yeshua, entered Eretz Yisrael, Matsu Natua. If they found the tree already planted, even though it was not yet 3 years old, Pater, it was Pater from Orla. Not to Alpha Pishalokavshu. If they planted a tree after they entered the land, even before conquering all of it, Chayiv, then the tree was Chayiv in Orla. Hanoteya le Rabim Chayiv. Someone plants a tree in his own property for the public to use the fruit, it is Chayiv in Orla. Rabbi Yehuda, however, patters it from Orla. So, Hanoteya Brishus Harabim. If someone plants a tree in the public domain for his own use. Or if an idolater planted a tree, Gazlan Shinata, or if a robber stole land and planted a tree on it, or someone planted a tree in a boat, Orla the Elaf, or if a tree sprouted on its own in a private domain, Orla, in all of these cases, the tree is subject to Orla. Um, okay, so let's go through some of these cases in the Mishnah. So number one, you know, we start with the Mishnah saying that they found the tree already planted. That was parted from Orla because you had to plant the trees fresh. It wasn't that it was planted beforehand? Um, and in terms of kibbutz haaretz, like while many other mitzvahs only went into effect after the land was conquered and divided, Orla took effect right away because it wasn't dependent on anything else other than coming to the land, as the pasuk says. Um, Fine, let's go on. Mishnah Gimel. Ilan Shinaka Vasela Imo. If a tree that was more than 3 years old was uprooted, like in a storm, together with the soil rock, and became replanted in the ground, shot to Nahar Vasela Imo, or if a river swept it away together with the soil rock, and that the tree became replanted in a new location, then the law is as follows. Im Yachol Lachios Pater. If it could have survived by drawing nourishment from just that soil rock with no additional earth, it is Pater from Orla because it is as if it was never uprooted from the earth in which it was growing. Being Lav Chayiv. But if it could not have survived without an additional earth in which it was replanted, then it is considered to have been uprooted and is chayiv to 3 years of Orla once more. You have to start the 3 year count again. Nekar Haselamitzi, though some of the soil rock became separated from the tree side. Oh, Shizazato Hamachrisha, or if a plow hit and shook it, causing some of the soil rock to separate from the tree. Oh, Shizazo Kafar, or if he shook it until he made the soil rock look like loose earth. If he shook it until it was loose, and then he repacked the soil around the roots again. And in these cases, if the tree could have survived as is, without the additional earth that was repacked around it, then it is pater from Orla, because it is as if it was never uprooted from the earth in which it was growing. Being lav chayiv. If it could not have survived without the additional earth that was repacked around it, it is chayiv to a new count of Orla, because it is considered to be a tree that was uprooted and then replanted. Mishnah Dalet. Ilan shenaka v'nishtayir b'shorish. If a tree that was more than 3 years old was uprooted almost entirely, but there remained in it a single root that was still firmly connected to the ground as before, pater, then the tree remains exempt from Orla. The kama shorish, and how thick must this single root be? Rabbi Gamliel ben Yehuda ish Bartusa. Rabbi Gamliel says in the name of Rabbi ben Yehuda, the man of Bartusa, Kemachat Shalmito, like the thickness of a stretching needle. Mishnah Hay. Mishnah Hay. So the first part of this Mishnah deals with a case of layering. One of the branches of a fruit tree or a grapevine is bent down to the ground, where the middle of the branch is then buried so that it will develop its own roots. On one end of the branch means connected to the original vine, I mean the parent vine, and the other free end rises from the ground as if it were a separate vine. When the new roots are sufficiently developed, the branch is severed from the parent, at which point the layered branch becomes a completely separate grapevine. So here we go. Elan, this is Mishnah Hay. Elan shenakar ubo brecha. If a tree that was more than 3 years old was uprooted from the ground, but had a layered branch still attached to it, who, hey, chayim in which the tree could be sustained, chazra azikna lihiyos gebrecha. The whole tree now changes to be like a branch of the root of the rooted layer, and the rooted layer is now like the main tree. And both begin a 3-year Orla count from that moment. If he layered the old tree year after year, which drawing each year's layered branch from the branch that was layered the previous year. So now after several years, he has a series of layered branches. The later ones connected through the earlier ones all the way back to the parent. And the first layered branch was then severed from the original parent, making the tree that grew from that branch, as well as all the other trees that came after it, independent of the original parent. Mona Misha Shnifsika, he counts a new 3-year Orla period for all the trees that grew from the layered branches from the time that the first layered branch was severed from the original tree. Sipuk Hagefanim, in the case of extension of a grapevine, where a vine is stretched and then grafted onto another grapevine, while remaining attached to its original grapevine, is sipuk al gabi sipuk, and an extension upon an extension, afa pisha richam ba'aretz, even if he also layered the extensions in the ground, so that in addition to replanting them into another grapevine, he also replanted them into the ground. The law, then the mutter, it is permitted. It's mutter to eat the fruits that grow from these vines. The original grapevines are past the years of Orla. The grafting and layering of these extended vines is not considered a new planting, since these extended vines were never severed from the original places of growth. The Mishnah now quotes a Tana who says this is not always the case. Meir says, Malcolm shekocha yafa mutter. When the strength of the extended vine is strong, so that it still draws most of its nourishment from the parent to which it is still connected, it is mutter to eat its fruits because the extended vine is still considered to be a part of the parent. The makom shekocha ra aser. But where the strength of the extended vine is weak, so that it does not draw its main nourishment from the parent, it is aser to eat the fruits that will not grow from the vine, because it is considered replanted in the rootstock onto which it has been grafted, even though it's still connected to the parent. And also a layered branch that was cut from the old tree when the layered branch was already filled with non or the fruit, then if it grew one 200th more from its own roots after being cut from the old tree, it is usher to eat those fruits because the new Orla growth is too large to be nullified. Mishnah Vav. Netiya shall Orla shall kileya kerem shenis arba benetiyos. If a young tree of Orla or of kilaim of the vineyard became mixed with other young trees so that the grower does not know which tree is the also one, one may not pick fruit from any of the mixed trees, even if the permitted trees are 200 times the forbidden ones. But if he did pick some fruit, it becomes nullified at 201. Meaning that if there are 200 times as many permitted fruit as there are forbidden fruit, provided he did not intend to pick the fruits in order to cause them to become nullified. Rabbi Yossi says, He may even intend to pick them, and they will become nullified at 201. Mishnah Zayin. Ha'olim v'ha'lulavim v'megafanim v'smadar mutarim ba'orla. The leaves, the shoots, the water of vines, and the buds are permitted in the case of Orla. The Revi, and may be eaten without restriction in the case of Revi. The Nazir, and in the case of Nazir, but Asur and Be'ashira, but they were all Asur in the case of an Ashera tree. Rabbi Yossi says, Hasmadar Asur B'nei Shehu Peri. The bud is forbidden in all cases, even in the cases of Orla, Revi, and Nazir, because it is considered to be a fruit. Rabbi Eliezer says, Hamamid B'sraf Orla Asur. If one curdles milk with the sap of Orla, the cheese is Asur. Rabbi Yeshua said, Shamati B'ferish Hamamid B'sraf Olim B'sraf Ha'ikarim Mutter. I heard explicitly, says Rabbi Yeshua, that if one curdles milk with the sap of the leaves of an Orla tree, or with the sap of the trunk, then the cheese is mutter, because such sap is not considered fruit. B'sraf ha'pagim aser b'nei shehu peri. But if he curdles milk with the sap of the unripe fruits, the cheese is aser because they are considered fruit. Okay, two more to go. On kulkulus, v'hachartzanim, defective grapes, v'hachartzanim v'azagim v'temesh lehem. Grape pits, grape skins, and their temed. Temed, we said, was the inferior wine made from soaking the grape pits of the grape skins in water. They're the same status as the pits or skins from which it's made. Kilpe rimo v'nechlo, a pomegranate skins and its blossom. Kilpe goes in nutshells, v'agarinim, and the pits of all fruits, Asur and Orla, are prohibited in the case of Orla, of Ashera, and in the case of Ashera, of a Nazir, and in the case of Nazir, the Mutarim Berevai, but they are permitted without restriction in the case of Revai. Novos Kulam Asuros, and fruits that fall from the tree before ripening are considered normal, edible fruit, and are in all these cases asur, whether it's the case of Ashera or the case of Orla and Nazir, and they may not be eaten outside Yerushalayim if they are revived. And finally, there's the test. Rabbi Yossi says, Notin Yichur Shel Orla. One may plant a branch of an Orla tree, notin ego Shel Orla. But one may not plant a nut of Orla, b'nei shehu peri, because while the branch is not a fruit, a nut is a fruit, and it's forbidden to benefit from the fruit of Orla. V'ein markivim b'kanafiyos shel Orla. And similarly, one may not graft a branch with date bud clusters of Orla, because date bud clusters too are considered fruit. That is the end of chapter Perek Aleph. Tomorrow we will do Perek Beis. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Kol Tov.